Confidence doesn't walk into the room. Confidence is the room. It doesn't beg for validation. It doesn't shrink to make others comfortable. It doesn't whisper, hoping not to offend. Confidence stands tall, silent, unmoved, because it knows who it is. But here's the tragedy. Most people don't lack ability, they lack belief. They have the gifts. They have the potential. They have the opportunity. But they hesitate. They question. They wait. And what they call humility is often just hidden fear. You don't lose because you're not talented. You lose because you don't trust yourself enough to use it. Confidence isn't arrogance. It's not noise. It's not bravado. It's not the loudest voice in the room. It's the clearest. And clarity only comes when you stop doubting who you are and start owning it. But how do you know when confidence is missing? You'll see it in your patterns. You'll hear it in your excuses. You'll feel it in your hesitation. It starts quietly, subtly, slowly, until one day you look up and realize you've built a life around playing it safe. So let's expose it. The first sign you lack confidence is you constantly seek permission. You ask before you move. You wait for someone to approve before you execute. You let the opinions of others override the voice inside you that already knows. Confidence doesn't ask, can I? It decides, I will. When you live in hesitation, you're outsourcing your power. You're living in delay. You're waiting for a sign when you are the sign. You were not meant to tiptoe through life, asking for validation. You were built to move with clarity, not consensus. And every time you hesitate to act because you're waiting for someone to tell you you're worthy, you reinforce the lie that you aren't, but you are. And you don't need permission to become who you already are. The second sign you lack confidence. You apologize for your ambition. You downplay your goals. You hide your hunger. You shrink your language so others don't feel threatened. You were born to be a giant, but you keep crouching to fit into spaces that were never designed for your stature. You say things like, it's not a big deal, or I'm just trying my best, when deep down you're building something powerful, but you're scared to own it. Confidence doesn't apologize for wanting more. It doesn't mask vision behind false modesty. It moves boldly and lets results do the talking. There is nothing noble about pretending you don't care. There is nothing holy about hiding your light. Your playing small helps no one. It only keeps you trapped in rooms you were meant to rise above. The third sign you lack confidence. You avoid risk not because it's wrong, but because you fear failure. You don't take the shot. You don't make the call. You don't step forward unless it's a guaranteed win. Confidence doesn't need certainty. It creates certainty through action. Fear says, what if I lose? Confidence says, what if this is the moment everything changes? Every breakthrough you've ever wanted is waiting on the other side of risk. And the person who wins isn't the most prepared. It's the one who's willing to leap before they feel ready. If you avoid risk, you avoid growth. And if you avoid growth, you avoid greatness. You weren't made to live in safe zones. You were made to lead. But leadership demands courage, and courage requires confidence. The fourth sign, you lack confidence. You're easily shaken by criticism. One negative comment derails your whole day. One opinion causes you to question your entire direction. Why? Because when confidence is absent, your identity is fragile. And when your identity is fragile, any voice can shape you, even the wrong ones. But confidence is rooted. It listens to feedback, but filters it through identity. It hears correction, but doesn't confuse it with condemnation. Criticism doesn't destroy the confident, it sharpens them. If a stranger's words can undo your drive, your confidence was never internal, it was borrowed. Stop renting your strength from compliments. Start building it from conviction. Because when you know who you are, what they say doesn't define you. You define you. The fifth sign, you lack confidence. You procrastinate on your calling. You talk a good game. You have the dream. You've mapped the vision, but you never pull the trigger. Why? Because confidence is not built in contemplation. It is built in execution. You delay not because you're lazy, but because you don't fully believe you can carry the weight of what you've asked for. And so you make it look productive, but it's really paralysis. You overthink. You overplan. You get ready forever. But confidence doesn't overprepare. It moves and adjusts on the journey. Confidence knows progress comes through imperfect action, not perfect timing. So stop delaying. Start deciding. Start delivering. The world is not waiting on your perfection. It's waiting on your permission, the permission you give yourself to show up. The sixth sign you lack confidence. You conform to stay accepted. You bend. You blend. You shift your standards. Not because you're evolving, but because you're afraid to be excluded. You say yes when you mean no. You agree when your spirit screams to speak up. You follow when you were born to lead. But confidence doesn't conform, it commands. It doesn't seek to be liked. It seeks to live aligned. And alignment always costs something. It might cost comfort. It might cost community. But the price of fitting in is too high when it requires you to abandon yourself. You were not made to be tolerated. You were made to be trusted with truth. And truth can't be walked out when your feet are in someone else's shoes. Put your voice back in your mouth. Stand on your standards. And stop trading authenticity for acceptance. Because every time you shrink to fit in, you reject the part of you that was born to stand out. The seventh sign, you lack confidence. You sabotage what you say you want. You finally get the opportunity and you question if you deserve it. You get close to love and you pull back. You reach the edge of breakthrough and you find a way to break it. This is the most dangerous sign of all because it looks like bad luck, but it's really internal resistance. A person who lacks confidence will always return to what's familiar, even if familiar is broken. You'll sabotage the good because you're still loyal to your old identity. And your old identity whispers, you're not that powerful. You don't deserve this. This isn't you. But here's the truth. It is you. You just haven't stayed long enough in success to get comfortable with it. Confidence is staying in the room your potential earned you and not fleeing back to the comfort of mediocrity when it starts to stretch you. You don't just need more wins. You need to learn how to hold them, how to embody the version of you that can sustain success, not just stumble into it. And that is what confidence truly is. It's not arrogance. It's not noise. It's not appearance. It's the quiet, unshakable alignment between who you are, what you do, and what you believe you deserve. It's the evidence of self-trust. And once you build that, you don't chase confidence. You become it. And once you become it, everything shifts. The room feels different when you walk in. Not because you're louder, but because your presence carries weight. Not because you're flashy, but because your energy radiates certainty. Not because you demand attention, but because you no longer need it. You are no longer performing. You are no longer negotiating your worth with people who haven't earned a seat at your table. You are no longer doubting your direction every time the wind changes. Because confidence doesn't need the weather to be perfect. It doesn't need the applause to be loud. It doesn't need the outcome to be guaranteed. It just moves. It speaks when necessary. It listens without insecurity. It walks forward not faster than everyone else, but more sure. And that sureness, it doesn't come from the world giving you a trophy. It comes from you keeping promises to yourself in private. It comes from doing the work when no one is clapping. It comes from making decisions based on your values, not your fears. It comes from looking in the mirror and knowing you can trust who's looking back. That's the foundation now. That's what you're building. A life where your confidence is no longer conditional, no longer built on outcomes, no longer swayed by moods or followers or public opinion. Your confidence now comes from alignment. You say what you mean. You do what you said. You become what you believe. And you believe because you've done the work to believe. No more asking for evidence. You are the evidence. No more waiting for someone to validate your voice. You are the voice. No more pretending that insecurity is humility. No more calling fear caution. No more mistaking delay for preparation. The most powerful version of you is the one who shows up without hesitation. And from now on, that's who walks into the world each day. Not perfectly. Not without setbacks, but with certainty. You've seen the 7 signs. You've exposed the patterns. And now you no longer wear them. Now you wear something stronger. Now you wear identity. Now you wear peace. Now you wear fire. Because you're not trying to become confident anymore. You are confidence in motion. And the world, the clients, the relationships, the opportunities, they don't respond to your pitch. They respond to your posture. So hold it. Own it. Live it. And let every step forward whisper to the world. I no longer question who I am. I no longer fear what I carry. I no longer wait for belief. I am belief with breath in my lungs, fire in my bones, and purpose in my step. This is what confidence looks like. This is what alignment feels like. This is what freedom walks like. And from this day forward, you walk like that. Got it from here on. I'll continue in English. Let's keep going. Because when you finally stop waiting for the world to give you permission and you grant it to yourself, you become unstoppable. You no longer second guess your voice. You no longer dilute your presence. You no longer rehearse smallness to make others comfortable. You speak clearly, not to impress, but to express. You move decisively, not for control, but from conviction. You live openly, not for approval, but from alignment. And that alignment becomes a force field. You attract different people. You create different results. You carry a different gravity. Because true confidence is gravitational. It doesn't need to reach out, it pulls in. It pulls in respect. It pulls in opportunity. It pulls in clarity. Not because you're trying harder, but because you've stopped trying altogether. You've replaced efforting with embodiment. Confidence doesn't hustle to be seen, it's felt. In your silence. In your presence. In the way you sit at the table without explaining why you belong there. That's what this work builds. Not hype, not noise, not temporary bravery. It builds identity. The kind that no one can take. The kind that doesn't rise and fall with opinion. The kind that walks into storms and calls them training. This is what happens when you remove those 7 signs. You don't just stop lacking confidence. You start radiating it from your eyes, from your posture, from your life. And once you radiate confidence, you don't go back. You can't go back. Because that old version of you, the one who asked, who waited, who doubted, is no longer here. You buried them in discipline. You replaced them with action. You transcended them through truth. And now, you walk different. You speak different. You are different. Then let's keep going. Because once you feel it, that quiet fire, that rooted certainty, you can never go back to living on accident. You become allergic to anything that dims your light. You become ruthless with distraction. You become intolerant of anything that smells like self-betrayal. Because confidence has a cost. And that cost is your old life. The version of you that waited for the right moment, that danced around truth, that stayed in the room too long because you didn't want to be misunderstood. Confidence doesn't keep you stuck, it calls you out. Out of spaces where your presence is dimmed. Out of circles where your growth is inconvenient. Out of behaviors that no longer match your standard. You stop asking, will they accept me? And you start declaring, is this aligned with who I've become? You stop filtering your expression to keep the peace. Because peace bought with self-abandonment is not peace. It's a prison. And you've escaped that now. Now you speak with clarity, not to convince, but because your truth demands voice. Now you move with intention not to impress, but because you refuse to waste a single step. Now you live with conviction because every part of your life is a reflection of your internal alignment. You know what this is? This is freedom. The freedom to be bold without being bitter. The freedom to walk away from what no longer matches your standard. The freedom to build your life based on truth, not trend. And once you taste that freedom, no paycheck, no relationship, no applause is worth trading it for. You are no longer here to fit in. You are here to stand tall. No longer here to perform. You are here to embody. No longer here to prove. You are here to move. And from this moment forward, the world will feel that. Because confidence isn't a sound. It's a signal. It's not what you say. It's who you are when you say nothing. And now you are that signal. Then let's push even further because now you're not just walking in confidence. You're radiating identity. And that kind of confidence, it cannot be borrowed. It cannot be imitated. It cannot be taught, only activated. You've activated it. And now you understand confidence isn't loud, but it is undeniable. It doesn't try to take up space. It simply is the space. It doesn't wait for applause. It walks like the whole room already belongs to it. Because when you are confident, not because of your accomplishments, but because of your alignment, you become magnetic. You attract what you no longer chase. You command what you used to wish for. You create what you once called impossible. People begin to feel your energy shift before you say a word. And not because you're trying to be anything, but because you're done pretending you're not everything. That's the shift. You are no longer defined by your fears. You are no longer held hostage by your doubts. You are no longer standing in the shadows of your own potential. You've stepped out, stepped up, stepped in, and now there's no turning back. The rooms you walk into will feel your standard. The conversations you enter will rise to your frequency. The life you live will echo with the rhythm of a person who knows exactly who they are. Not because you're perfect, but because you're real, rooted, ready. You are no longer asking, am I enough? Because now you walk as the answer. Then let's go all the way. Because now you've crossed over into something sacred. This isn't just confidence anymore. This is authority. Unshakable, unborrowed, unapologetic. And the greatest shift? You no longer need results to validate your voice. You no longer need applause to believe in your ability. You no longer need to win in public to trust what you've built in private. Because you've become someone whose belief is built from within. And that makes you rare. Because most people are waiting for the right mood, waiting for the right moment, waiting for someone to crown them. But you decided. You crowned yourself. You realize that confidence isn't something the world gives you when you've proven enough. It's something you carry when you remember who you've always been. You are the mountain now, not moved by wind, not shaped by weather, not shaken by noise. And from this mountain you lead, not with noise, not with image, but with example. You lead by how you stand, how you speak, how you live, how you refuse to shrink, not because you're trying to dominate, but because you've learned that playing small helps no one. The people around you, they start leveling up because you stopped lowering your standard. The rooms you enter, they shift because you're no longer waiting to belong. And the mission you're on, it accelerates because hesitation is no longer part of your vocabulary. This is where the confident live, not at the surface, but in depth, in devotion, in daily alignment between what they say and how they move. And now that's you. You've reclaimed your voice. You've reset your posture. You've remembered your worth. You are no longer chasing power. You are it. Then let's finish what we started, because this is no longer just about confidence. This is about ownership, owning your energy, owning your presence, Owning your responsibility to carry the fullness of your power, not in pieces, not in parts, but completely. Because you now know. Confidence is not what you say when things are easy. It's what you embody when life tests you. It's how you speak when the stakes are high. It's how you show up when no one else believes. It's how you hold the line when fear tries to seduce you back into smallness. And from this level, you don't collapse under pressure. You clarify. You don't question your path every time it gets difficult. You tighten your grip. You don't look for escape, you lock in. Because you know the cost of self-abandonment. You know what it feels like to hold back, to hesitate, to play safe. And you've tasted the pain of knowing you were made for more but never claimed it. But that's over now. Now you speak clearly. Now you move boldly. Now you think with precision, walk with presence, and lead with intention. You've become the person who walks into chaos and brings calm. The person who speaks, and the room listens not because you're loud, but because your spirit carries weight. The person who no longer waits for the world to see them because you've already seen yourself. This is confidence without arrogance, power without force, clarity without compromise. You've stopped hoping for it. You've stopped chasing it. You've become it. And now the world doesn't get to define you because you've already defined yourself. And when people ask what changed, when they ask how you started showing up different, you won't say a word. You'll just walk by, aligned, grounded, undeniable, because that's what confidence looks like. When it's no longer something you fake, but something you are. Let's stop lying. Let's stop dressing it up. Let's stop wrapping it in fluffy language. Let's stop pretending that being broke is just a phase or a vibe or a personality trait you can meme your way out of. Being broke is not your destiny, but it is your responsibility. And until you take ownership of that truth, you will stay stuck, not because of your job, not because of your boss, not because of the economy or where you were born, but because of what you've allowed yourself to believe. No, being broke is not a sin. But staying broke, that's a choice. A repeated, rehearsed, internalized choice to stay at a level of thinking that cannot afford the life you were born for. Because money is not just numbers. Money is a mirror. It reflects your mindset, your habits, your courage, your self-worth. And if your wallet is empty, I promise you so is your clarity. If your accounts are starving, so are your standards. If your life feels stuck, it's not the world, it's your decisions that have plateaued. The first reason you're still broke? You're waiting for rescue instead of creating responsibility. You keep waiting for the government, for your big break, for someone to finally see your worth, for a raise that matches your potential, for a partner that will fix your chaos. But nobody is coming. Nobody owes you a breakthrough. Nobody owes you success. Nobody owes you understanding, opportunity, a shot. That's your job. That's your duty. That's your daily decision. You keep passing the weight of your life to other people's choices. But you don't get to live rich off borrowed power. You only rise when you decide to carry what's yours and only yours. Responsibility is heavy, but it's holy. It doesn't say, it's my fault. It says, it's my fight. It's the moment you stop blaming your past and start building your present. It's when you stop reciting your pain and start rewriting your process. If you don't make responsibility your identity, poverty will make you its servant. The second reason you're still broke, you don't respect your time. You think time is just something you fill. You let people steal it. You let devices dilute it. You let distractions devour it. And every time you scroll instead of build, every time you say yes when you should have said no, every time you choose comfort over commitment, you are telling the universe, I'm not ready for abundance. I still waste the one currency I can't earn back. Rich people don't manage time, they own it. They don't say, I'm busy. They say, I'm building. They don't squeeze dreams into gaps between entertainment. They create rituals that generate results. Your schedule is your standard. And if your calendar is chaotic, So is your cash flow. Track it. Guard it. Invest it like your future depends on it. Because it does. The third reason you're still broke? You're afraid to sell. Afraid to offer. Afraid to charge what you're worth. Afraid to speak up. Show up. Stand out. Afraid to be seen as too much, too bold, too confident. So you hide. You discount. You downplay your gifts. You whisper your value instead of shouting it with conviction. But here's the truth. Money flows to value. And if you won't own your value, don't be surprised when no one pays you for it. Selling isn't manipulation. It's service. It's the bridge between what you carry and who needs it. It's the act of believing in your worth loud enough to invite others to experience it. The rich aren't better, they're just bolder. They don't wait to be picked. They present themselves. They don't beg, they build. They don't apologize for winning. They teach others to win too. If you're scared to sell, what you're really scared of is rejection. But let me tell you, this rejection won't kill you. Being broke, when you had the power to change, it will. The fourth reason you're still broke? You're emotionally irresponsible. You let your feelings run your finances. You spend to numb. You buy to impress. You avoid to protect your ego. You think money is about math, but really, it's about mastery. You don't need another budget. You need emotional discipline. Can you hold discomfort without buying something you don't need? Can you feel unworthy without proving your status through material lies? Can you sit with the silence of building without needing the dopamine hit of spending? Because if your emotions own your wallet, your destiny is rented and it's never in your name. The rich are not cold, they're clear. Clear on what matters. Clear on what compounds. Clear on what is distraction and what is destiny. And the fifth reason? You're allergic to boredom. You quit too soon. You jump to the next thing. You bail when the momentum slows down. You chase novelty instead of building depth. But wealth is boring. Success is monotonous. Discipline is unsexy. Repetition is sacred. You want variety, but your bank account wants consistency. Show up when it's easy and when it's exhausting. Do the work when it's fresh and when it's flat. Because mastery is not built in inspiration. It's built in repetition with excellence. That's the cure for broke. That's the fix. Responsibility, time ownership, courage to sell, emotional mastery, boredom-proof discipline. Not glamorous, not viral, not convenient, but truthful. And the truth will make you rich. Rich in money, yes. But deeper than that, rich in character, rich in integrity, rich in peace, rich in power. Because the wealth that lasts doesn't start in your wallet. It starts in your ways. It starts in how you think when no one's listening, how you move when no one's watching, how you handle pressure when the audience disappears. You've been told that being broke is a condition. It's not. It's a culture of delay, a culture of excuse, a culture of emotional impulse wrapped in financial slavery. And the cure for culture is not just cash. It's consciousness. You don't fix broke by throwing more money at a broken mindset. You fix broke by refusing to be someone who tolerates being average one more day. You fix broke when you finally say, I'm done. Done pretending. Done waiting. Done repeating the same patterns with prettier packaging. Done asking for handouts when I could be building a legacy. You fix it when you do the work, the unsexy work, the early mornings, the lonely focus, the days you want to quit but don't, the nights you sacrifice now to live free later. And hear this, it's not supposed to feel fair. It's not supposed to be easy. It's not supposed to look glamorous at the start. But freedom doesn't come to those who feel like it. It comes to those who fight for it. Every single day. You want to be rich? Be rich in standards. Be rich in self-respect. Be rich in delayed gratification. Be rich in your morning routines. Be rich in the silence that no one else can handle. Because the world is full of loud noise and light wallets. But the ones who live different, the ones who break the cycle, they've mastered something most never will. They've learned how to become wealthy in the dark. Before the success, before the recognition, before the breakthrough, before the bank showed proof their life already did. So fix your broke. Fix it with honesty. Fix it with ownership. Fix it with better questions, better inputs, better habits, better identity. You are not a victim. You are not cursed. You are not late. You are not destined to repeat your parents' pain. You are ready. And if you're not yet rich, then get rich in grit. Because that's what builds empires when no one believes you yet. That's what silences doubt. That's what multiplies everything you touch. Not just cash, but confidence. Not just assets, but alignment. Not just results, but reputation. The kind that screams without a sound. This one is done being broke. This one's already free. Because freedom isn't just a lifestyle. It's a code, a way of being. And the ones who live by that code don't wait for permission to break through. They decide. They decide that broke is no longer welcome in their language. No longer welcome in their energy. No longer welcome in their lineage. Because broke isn't just about money, it's about momentum. It's a stuckness, a settling, a surrender to a life that keeps you treading water when you were born to build ships. And that decision to refuse broke. It doesn't start when the money comes in. It starts when you change who you are without it. Because that's where the real wealth is forged, in the fire of becoming. Becoming the kind of person who doesn't chase security but creates it. The kind of person who doesn't wait for opportunities but builds them. The kind of person who doesn't flinch when it gets hard but locks in harder. You don't get there by wishing. You get there by becoming impossible to ignore. By showing up with such intensity, such clarity, such integrity that the universe bends to make space for your name. That's the cure for broke. Not hustle with no vision. Not noise with no roots. But evolution. Internal, quiet, ruthless, daily evolution. Where you audit your habits like your future depends on it, because it does. Where you cut what drains and double what builds. Where you burn the excuses and become the evidence. So here's your moment. Right here. Right now. No more hiding behind history. No more playing defense with your destiny. No more telling yourself next month, next quarter, next year. The truth? If you're still broke, it's not because you can't fix it. It's because you haven't decided yet. Not just that you want to be rich, everyone wants that, but that you're willing to become the version of you who can carry it. And when you do, when your identity matches the level of life you say you deserve, everything shifts. The money comes. The mission expands. The noise fades. And the broke version of you, buried, replaced, rewritten with someone unshakable, someone undeniable, someone wealthy in ways the world will never understand, because you earned it when no one was clapping, when no one saw it, when no one believed in it, except you. And that's how you fix broke forever. Because when you fix it from the root, not the symptoms, not the surface, but the core, it never breaks again. You become recession-proof. You become rejection-proof. You become drama-proof. You become excuse-proof. Not because life stops throwing punches, but because you stop handing it your power. That's the difference between the broke and the wealthy. Not just in income, in identity. Broke lives in reaction. Wealth lives in response. Broke waits for external shifts. Wealth creates internal standards. Broke sees obstacles. Wealth sees options. Broke asks, how much can I get away with? Wealth asks, how far can I push what's possible? So don't just chase money. Chase mastery. Chase alignment. Chase the version of you who doesn't tolerate broken standards, broken boundaries, broken belief systems. Because that version builds wealth in every area. They don't just get paid, they get respected. They don't just make money, they multiply meaning. They don't just break cycles, they build empires. And they do it by remembering what broke taught them. That no one's coming. That time is sacred. That silence is where value grows. That sales aren't shameful. They're service. That emotion isn't a guide, discipline is. That boredom is the birth canal of greatness. Broke gave you a gift perspective. It showed you what survival feels like. It showed you what being out of alignment does to the soul. It showed you what it costs to live reactive, small, distracted, disconnected. Now use it. Turn that pain into posture. Turn that lesson into leverage. Turn that frustration into fuel. Not to prove anything, but to become everything you were born to be. Because once you fix broke at the identity level, you don't need to fake confidence anymore. You don't need to beg for attention. You don't need to keep up appearances. You become wealth in motion, power in silence, vision in form. And from there, nothing is out of reach. Nothing is too expensive. Nothing is above you. Because your worth no longer comes from what's in your account, it comes from what's in your alignment. And that wealth can never be taxed, can never be stolen, can never be taken away. Because you became it. And once you become it, no one can ever break you again. And that's the part they never tell you, that once you become the wealth, the world has no choice but to reflect it. You don't chase money. You don't chase clients. You don't chase validation. You attract what mirrors your new standard. Because wealth is not something you stumble into. It's something you calibrate to. A frequency you live on. A temperature you refuse to drop from. A level you no longer dip beneath, not because it's easy, but because it's earned. And earning it has nothing to do with being busy. Nothing to do with hustle for hustle's sake. Nothing to do with grinding without guidance. It has everything to do with intention. With living as if your time is divine. With moving like someone who's been assigned a purpose too powerful to waste on worry. That's what broke steals from you, not just money, but your memory. It makes you forget who you are. Makes you forget you were born to build, not just beg. Born to create, not just consume. Born to expand, not just survive. But you remember now. And once you remember, once you truly recall what you're made of, you stop playing games with your potential. You stop loaning your life to distractions. You stop renting space in your future to fear. You take back the keys. You walk into your next season with a spine made of steel. And you build with clarity, with conviction, with a commitment no storm can shake. That's when everything changes. Not when the world gives you permission, but when you stop waiting for it. When you stop asking for opportunities and start becoming one. When you stop hoping for success and start commanding your mornings, your habits, your circle, your mind. Because wealth doesn't visit those who dabble. It lives with those who decide, who burn the old story, who divorce their excuses, who rise at a frequency that poverty can't survive in. So let this be the line. Let this be the moment the old you, the one who tolerated broke, gets buried. And the new you, the one who builds abundance from the inside out, walks forward. Not to try, to take the life that's been waiting, the power that's been asleep, the future that was always yours. As soon as you were willing to fix broke at the source, once and for all, your words are building something. Every time you speak, you are constructing a bridge or a barrier. You're either connecting or confusing. You're either making someone feel seen or making them feel small. And the tragedy? Most people don't even know when their words are failing them. They think communication is about talking, about filling the silence, about saying enough to sound smart, safe, professional, powerful. But communication, true communication, is about transmission. Can your thoughts become understanding? Can your ideas become transformation? Can your presence become clarity without having to raise your voice? Because here's the brutal truth. If people don't understand you, they can't trust you. If they don't feel heard by you, they won't follow you. And if they don't feel safe in your words, they will shut down even when you're right. So how do you know if your communication is poor? Sign 1. You talk more than you listen. Because the loudest person in the room isn't the leader. The listener is. Real communicators aren't addicted to being heard. They're obsessed with understanding. They don't interrupt. They don't hijack conversations with their own story. They don't just wait for their turn to speak. They study the person in front of them. They ask better questions. They observe energy. They make people feel safe enough to open up, not perform. If your communication always brings it back to you, you're not connecting, you're competing. And that's the silent killer of influence. People don't want a spotlight stealer. They want a space holder. And when you become the person who truly listens, who remembers, who pays attention to the unsaid, your words double in power. Because people will finally believe, this one doesn't just hear me. They see me. Then let's go deeper. Because the second sign you are a poor communicator is this. You assume more than you ask. Assumption is the language of ego. It says, I already know what you mean. I already know how you feel. I already know what needs to happen. But assumption kills connection. It builds walls where there should be windows. It turns conversations into collisions. Good communicators don't just speak, they inquire. They clarify. They dig. They humble themselves enough to say, help me understand. Can you walk me through what you're really feeling? Before I respond, let me make sure I'm clear. Because understanding isn't about agreeing. It's about respecting the reality the other person lives in. Poor communication is when you react before you receive. When you finish someone's sentence before they've found their courage. When you slap your solution on their struggle like a Band-Aid on a broken bone. But the best communicators move slow. They resist the urge to fix. They resist the urge to fill silence. They resist the urge to be the hero of the conversation. Because the goal isn't to be right. The goal is to be effective. And effectiveness begins when you stop assuming you already understand and start asking like it matters. You want real connection? Drop the ego. Drop the guessing. Get curious again. Because the moment you think you already know it all, your communication has already started to die. Then stay with me because the third sign you are a poor communicator is this. You prioritize clarity for yourself, but confusion for others. You think they get it because you get it. You assume your passion, your speed, your tone are translating, but in reality, they're not connecting. They're overwhelming. They're blurring the message. Communication isn't just about what you say. It's about what's received. It's not about how confident you sounded. It's about how clear they walked away. Poor communicators talk in clouds. They use big words to mask small understanding. They throw out jargon to feel important. They over-explain, overcomplicate, and then wonder why no one moves. But great communicators, they speak with precision. They strip away the fluff. They remove the ego. They make the message impossible to miss. Because they know if your words require a decoder, you're not powerful. You're noisy. Clarity is kindness. Clarity is leadership. Clarity is the difference between someone following you and someone faking agreement just to end the conversation. You want to lead? Make it simple. Make it sharp. Make it impossible to misunderstand. Because when people understand you, they trust you. When they trust you, they move. And when they move, everything changes. So speak not to impress. Speak to empower. If your words don't create motion, they were never communication. They were just decoration. Then lean in, because the fourth sign you are a poor communicator is this. You speak from reaction, not intention. You let the moment drive your mouth. You let frustration write your tone. You let pride sharpen your words. And in doing so, you burn bridges you were meant to build. Poor communication often sounds strong, but it's reckless. It's reactive. It's undisciplined emotion packaged as truth. But truth without timing is still a weapon. Real communicators know how to pause. They don't just ask, what do I want to say? They ask, what outcome do I want to create? They know that words are not just noise. They are tools. And every tool, if used poorly, can become a weapon. You can speak facts and still cause damage. You can be right and still destroy trust. You can win the argument and lose the relationship. A good communicator doesn't react. They respond with awareness, with purpose, with intention. They know how to breathe through the heat. They know how to wait for the right moment. They know when to speak and when silence is louder. Because emotional maturity shows in your mouth, not in what you say when you feel good, but in what you don't say when you're triggered. So check your heart before you speak. Ask yourself, is this for healing or for winning? Is this to build or to break? Is this my pride speaking or my purpose? Because one wrong sentence can cost you respect. One careless word can cost you years of trust. One reaction can undo 1,000 moments of good leadership. And if you don't master your mouth will master your future. Then brace yourself. Because the fifth sign you are a poor communicator is this. You avoid hard conversations and call it keeping the peace. But peace without truth is just postponed conflict. And silence isn't always kindness. Sometimes it's cowardice in disguise. Poor communicators would rather be liked than be clear. They'd rather let dysfunction slide than risk discomfort. They convince themselves, I don't want to stir the pot. But what they're really saying is, I don't want to be uncomfortable. I don't want to be misunderstood. I don't want to face resistance. But here's the truth. Avoided conversations become accumulated resentment. And that resentment, it leaks. It shows up in passive tones, in sharp responses, in energy shifts that say everything your lips won't. You think you're hiding it. You're not. You're transmitting it. Powerful communication requires courage. The courage to enter the tension. To say what needs to be said with grace, not with guilt. With conviction, not with cruelty. Great communicators don't avoid hard talks. They prepare for them. They lead them. They bring clarity, compassion, and calm into places where others bring avoidance. Because if you want alignment in your relationships, your team, your mission, you must be willing to speak truth, even when your voice shakes. No more sugarcoating. No more hoping they figure it out. No more waiting for the right time that never comes. Say it. Say it clean. Say it with love, but say it all. Because silence isn't strength. Honest dialogue is. And if you want to build anything that lasts, you must stop protecting people's comfort at the cost of your clarity. Then stand firm, because the sixth sign you are a poor communicator is this. You don't match your words with your energy. You say the right things, but they don't land because your tone doesn't carry conviction. Your body doesn't carry belief. Your presence doesn't carry truth. And people may not always hear what you say, but they always feel what you mean. Poor communicators think words alone are enough. They forget that the delivery is the message. If your tone is hollow, your words sound rehearsed. If your posture is closed, your openness means nothing. If your face is flat, your encouragement falls to the floor. You can't fake alignment. People know when your words are out of sync with your soul. Great communication isn't just about the right script. It's about embodiment. It's about being congruent. When you say, I care, they feel it. When you say, I'm proud of you, they believe it. When you say, we're going to make it, it shifts the atmosphere because your presence is carrying weight. Your voice is anchored. Your energy is clean. But when your message and your essence are disconnected, people stop trusting your leadership. They may smile. They may nod. But deep down, they pull back. And over time, they stop listening altogether. Because communication isn't just what you speak. It's the alignment between your values, your voice, and your vibration. You want to be heard? Then speak with your whole being. Speak with congruence. Speak with depth. Speak with energy that tells the truth before the words ever reach their ears. Because when you do, people don't just hear you. They feel you. They remember you. They move with you. And that's real communication. That's real leadership. That's real power. Then let's complete this with fire, because the seventh and final sign you are a poor communicator is this. You communicate to protect your image, not to create impact. You speak to impress, to maintain control, to appear polished, professional, unshakable. But in that performance, you've forgotten the point. Communication is not about perfection. It's about connection. Poor communicators filter everything through ego. They avoid vulnerability because it feels like weakness. They rehearse authenticity, but never live it. They hide behind buzzwords, polished phrasing, and safe conversations. And the result? No one gets in. No one relates. No one remembers. Because people don't connect to your mask. They connect to your mess, your honesty, your humanity, your willingness to drop the performance and just be real. The best communicators are not the ones with flawless delivery. They're the ones with nothing to hide. They say, I was wrong. I don't know. I've been there too. I'm still learning. And in those words, trust is born. Walls come down. People breathe again. And the space becomes safe, real, alive. Because when you stop trying to be impressive, you start becoming impactful. When you stop trying to sound smart, you start sounding true. And when you stop speaking for applause, you start speaking for transformation. That's the power of pure communication. That's what separates a speaker from a leader. You're not here to protect an image. You're here to ignite something in people that they forgot was even there. And that doesn't come from perfect grammar or polished pauses. It comes from truth. It comes from alignment. It comes from you fully present, fully real, fully committed to clarity over comfort. Because once your words stop being about you, they start changing everything around you. There's a war happening right now, and it's not in your bank account. It's in your mind. It's silent, invisible, daily. A war not fought with weapons, but with thoughts. Not fought with enemies, but with beliefs. And if you're still broke, it's not because of lack of effort. It's because of what's been allowed to grow unexamined in the garden of your mind. Because poverty isn't just a number. It's a mentality, a way of thinking, a way of choosing, a way of shrinking. And until you confront the mental habits that are silently suffocating your potential, nothing will change. You can get a raise. You can get a business loan. You can win the lottery. But if your mind hasn't changed, your money never will. Because wealth doesn't begin with work. It begins with wiring. And the first mental habit that keeps people poor, waiting for the right time, the right moment, the perfect setup, the clean calendar, the money in place, the risk removed, the plan fully mapped out. But that moment never comes because it doesn't exist. The right time isn't found, it's made. It's declared. It's created by people who understand that action births clarity, not the other way around. Poor thinking waits for conditions. Rich thinking creates momentum. Because clarity doesn't come before motion, it comes through motion. If you wait until you're ready, you'll die waiting. Start with what you have. Start where you are. Start even if your hands shake. Because the world doesn't reward the one who plans the longest. It rewards the one who moves with courage in uncertainty. The second mental habit that keeps you poor, obsessing over other people's opinions. You're trying to get rich while still trying to be liked. Trying to break cycles while fearing judgment. Trying to build a life no one in your circle has seen while needing their applause to feel secure. But here's the truth. You can't serve your calling and your comfort at the same time. The path to wealth is lonely, not because no one wants to come with you, but because most are too scared to pay the price. And if their opinion keeps you paralyzed, you'll never take the steps that make you free. Poor thinking is addicted to approval. Rich thinking is married to alignment. Alignment with vision. Alignment with values. Alignment with truth. Even when it costs you being misunderstood. If you can't be disliked, you're not ready to be wealthy. Because wealth requires conviction, not consensus. The third mental habit, believing that effort equals results. You think just because you're tired, you should be further along. Just because you worked hard, you deserve wealth. Just because you sacrificed, life owes you something. But life doesn't pay out based on energy spent. It pays out based on energy invested correctly. You can run 10 miles in the wrong direction and still be lost. You can hustle all day and build nothing of value. You can grind for years and be no closer because you never stop to ask, is this the right fight? Poor thinkers believe in the myth of merit without strategy. Rich thinkers optimize. They review. They reflect. They adjust. They don't just ask, did I work hard today? They ask, did I work smart? Did I move the needle? Did I move in the right direction? Effort is noble, but it's not enough. Without vision, effort is exhaustion in disguise. The fourth mental habit, treating money emotionally. You spend when you're stressed. You buy when you feel unseen. You sabotage because you feel unworthy. You avoid because facing the numbers brings shame. So you repeat the cycle month after month. Spend, justify, regret, ignore, start over. And you wonder why your wealth never grows. Money doesn't respond to feelings, it responds to discipline, to stewardship, to systems. Poor thinkers use money to feel better. Rich thinkers use money to build better. They track. They study. They make decisions rooted in facts, not moods. They know that feelings are valid, but feelings don't write checks. The fifth habit, avoiding responsibility. Blaming the government. Blaming your childhood. Blaming your ex. Blaming the market. But the longer you keep pointing out there, the less power you have in here. Because every excuse you speak becomes a chain around your future. Every time you say, they won't let me, you teach your brain that you're powerless. Poor thinkers seek someone to rescue them. Rich thinkers rescue themselves. They don't say, whose fault is this? They say, what can I control right now? They take extreme ownership, even when it hurts, because they know no one can free what they still refuse to own. And ownership, that's the birthplace of wealth. Because when you own it, you can transform it. And when you transform it, your mindset, your habits, your internal narrative, you begin to realize wealth isn't something you chase. It's something you become. But not before facing the sixth mental habit that keeps you poor. Thinking too small. You dream in inches when you were born for expansion. You shrink your ideas to make others feel safe. You talk about surviving the month while your spirit is screaming to shape the next decade. Small thinking is a slow death. It keeps you stuck in maintenance mode, managing crumbs instead of building empires. Poor minds worship just enough. Rich minds stretch. They think in impact. They think in scale. They think in decades, not days. And they know you don't build wealth by trying to survive poverty. You build it by learning to think like a builder. The size of your thinking sets the ceiling for your life. And right now, if your ceiling feels low, it's not because you're stuck. It's because your vision is. Raise it. The seventh mental habit, talking more than you execute. You post. You plan. You polish. You talk about what you're going to do, what you're building, what's coming soon. But it's all surface, all motion, no movement, because talking feels productive. It gives you the dopamine hit of progress without requiring the discipline of follow-through. But wealthy minds don't talk their way to power, they build it. Brick by brick, quietly, consistently. While others perform, they produce. While others market, they master. While others chase visibility, they chase value. Poor thinkers live in idea land. Rich thinkers live in execution mode. If you speak more than you build, your life will echo with potential unfulfilled. The eighth mental habit that keeps you broke, comparing constantly. You look left and right more than you look inward. You measure your path by someone else's pace. You let social media make you feel behind because someone posted a win you haven't had yet. Comparison is the thief of power. It makes you question timing. It makes you forget your mission. It makes you resent your own progress. Poor minds obsess over others. Rich minds obsess over growth. Because true wealth is not better than them. It's better than yesterday's you. The only competition is the voice that tells you you're not enough. And when you silence that voice with consistency, confidence, and character, wealth finds you, not because you shouted louder, but because you stayed longer. And finally, the ninth mental habit, thinking money is the goal. You say you want freedom, but you chase numbers. You say you want impact, but you obsess over income. You say you want peace, but your daily grind is built on panic. Here's the truth. Money is not the mission. It's the multiplier. It amplifies who you already are. If you're scattered, money multiplies chaos. If you're aligned, money multiplies impact. Poor minds chase cash. Rich minds cultivate capacity because they know when you become a person of value, money must follow. Not maybe, not hopefully, inevitably. So stop trying to look rich and start becoming so valuable, so focused, so refined, so disciplined that wealth can't help but rise in your presence. Not because you were lucky, but because you broke the habits that kept you poor and built the mindset that made you unshakable. Because that's what real wealth is. Not something you inherit, not something you imitate, not something you wait for, but something you embody. You don't build wealth by tweaking your bank account. You build wealth by reconstructing your mind. And when that mind is rooted in strength, not scarcity, when your thoughts are tied to purpose, not panic, when your decisions reflect legacy, not insecurity, that's when money stops being a mystery and starts being a byproduct. Because the game was never about money. The game was about who you're willing to become. The kind of person who doesn't flinch when plans fall apart. The kind of person who doesn't shrink to make others comfortable. The kind of person who doesn't spend to feel something. The kind of person who doesn't wait to be ready, they rise ready. You want to know why the rich get richer? It's not a conspiracy. It's a consequence. It's the consequence of clarity, of consistency, of mental architecture that refuses to house poverty thoughts. So do the audit. Check your language. Track your inner dialogue. What you say when things go wrong. What you believe about people who win. What you feel when someone else breaks through. What stories you've kept on repeat because they feel familiar. Burn them and replace them with standards. Not fluff, not hype. Standards. Standards for how you think. Standards for what you allow. Standards for what you repeat. Standards for the identity you wear every single day. Because no, it's not easy. Yes, it will hurt. Yes, it will cost you your old life. But the return? Freedom, peace, presence, options, impact, legacy. And that's the real win, not the income, but the authority. The authority over your time. The authority over your choices. The authority to say, I'm not broke anymore, not because I got paid, but because I got clear. Clear in thinking. Clear in action. Clear in alignment. That's how the game is played. And the ones who master it, they don't just get rich. They become untouchable. Because when your mind is untouchable, your life becomes unstoppable. Not because nothing goes wrong, but because nothing owns you anymore. You've outgrown scarcity. You've outgrown chaos. You've outgrown the fragile identity that needed validation to feel worthy. You've upgraded your operating system. Now you think like a leader. You move like a builder. You decide like a king. You execute like someone who expects to win. That's not arrogance. That's alignment. You don't walk around yelling that you're rich. Your presence declares it for you because it's in the way you move, the way you show up on time for your dreams, the way you say no to things that don't pay your future, the way you guard your time like a fortress, the way you honor your word even when it's only you who hears it. You want to kill poverty? Start with your patterns. Because poverty is a pattern of excuses, of hesitation, of blame, of avoidance, of emotional indulgence dressed up as self-care. But wealth is also a pattern of discipline, of consistency, of action without applause, of saying yes to legacy and no to laziness. And you have to choose, not once but daily. Choose whether your habits will fund your future or finance your failure. Choose whether your mind will lift you or limit you. Choose whether you'll live in loops or write new laws for your life. Because you can't pray for wealth while thinking like a slave. You can't talk success and walk in fear. You can't post motivation while living in mental poverty. So rebuild the system. Tear down the lies. Throw out every thought that makes broke look acceptable. No more shrinking. No more waiting. No more pretending that you're just in a season. You're in a cycle. And cycles break when you do. When you break the mental agreement you made with being stuck. When you stop telling your story like it's an anchor instead of an origin. When you get tired, not just tired of being broke, but tired of thinking broke. And from that place, that burning, honest, soul awakening place, you build not just a better budget, not just a better strategy, but a better you. The kind of you who doesn't flinch when life tightens. The kind of you who doesn't fold in silence. The kind of you who walks in a room with nothing in your pocket, but everything in your posture. That's wealth. That's royalty. That's the final level, where nothing owns you but your standards. And when you get there, really get there, you won't have to scream success. You'll breathe it. You'll walk it. You'll live it. Because you didn't just change your money. You changed your mind. And that changed everything.